We are blessed to have in our community Scott Koepke, who has devoted his life's work to learning about soil and sharing his knowledge and love with those around him. Scott graciously agreed to an interview, which I am so happy to be able to share here.
It starts for me with not just so much the science, but a philosophy of respect, because I always talk about, don't treat the soil. You've heard it a million times. I don't call it dirt because if I call you, I do call it dirt, but to make a point, I'm saying, if I go up to a kid and I go, I'm going to treat you like dirt, then that means I'm going to disrespect you. Mm-hmm. So let's just not disrespect each other. Let's not disrespect the soil. Let's call it soil. But it's just to get them to understand and respect and honor that this finite resource is a living, breathing, hydrating world of life. The first question you asked me about why I love soil, basically because I like to eat and breathe air. If we don't take care of healthy soil, we're not going to have any plants. If we don't have plants, we don't have food. If we don't have food, we're not here. So, and the plants give us oxygen. So kind of important stuff that I wasn't really taught in school. And we'll get back to that later, but to see the path of where I was coming, I'm 58. So I'm at the last lap of my career, So for whatever it's worth, I have some perspective on how I developed this understanding, and we'll always, of course, continue to grow that understanding. But in terms of soil, well, I'll back up and say, if you're a vegetarian, of course, you're just eating plants for the most part, So kids understand food coming from plants in that regard. But I also encourage them to think about where meat comes from. What is that cow doing with its head? Well, its head is down, right, in the grass. So what is the grass? And then I'll always have one kid go, "It's a plant." And I go, bingo, exactly. So whether you eat meat or you're a vegetarian, it doesn't, all of our food starts with the plants. But we haven't even started to talk about what the plants eat. Mm-hmm. So what are the plants eating? And I don't even have to tell them. They're like, one kid will go, soil. I'm like, okay, awesome. Now you get the connection. Soil, plants, food, us.
I asked Scott to describe how healthy soil makes healthy humans.
You basically take a root hair and a soil aggregate, make that connection of life, stick it under the microscope, crank it up, and then when you see it for the first time, you're just blown away, because you see, as you look in there and you see all these little critters swimming around, and you're like, what is that? Come here, you guys, look at this. They're like, wow, it's alive. I'm like, yeah, we have to keep it alive, because those little critters, bacteria, protozoa, nematodes, arthropod shredder mites, you go up the chain of life, you're going to get to red wigglers. But let's break it down to that microscopic level that you don't see under our feet, where the root meets that soil. That is where all those little critters are eating and making the black stuff that then binds with water molecules to the root, is absorbed into the root, is brought up into the plant. Those nutrients are delivered to make our peppers and tomatoes and corn and grass and oxygen. So it's just so cool to see, like, the light bulb go on of understanding, even if most of them won't ever like really get into that like I am, but that's my point, is to just, you got to honor and respect what it means to take care of soil. Look, all these little critters are decomposing and eating all this stuff, this organic matter, the old plants, the old leaves, all that stuff. And when they poop it out in the poop loop, we call it the poop loop, giving you an available nutrient that's now producing the food. And then I can even introduce with a kid availability. in chemistry, because like I take the leaves and I drop the leaves down on the ground and I go, those leaves aren't really useful yet to the root. Like it's got to break down and break down and break down and break down, and then gets to a certain point where it's all decomposed and now it's ready. Now it's available to get into the plant.
I asked Scott, what are some things that we can do to take care of the soil?
If I break it down, like if I had to give people one or two suggestions, it would be to build organic matter, okay? To build OM through composting, cover crops. When I do cover crops at the farm and when I teach it, it's the quadruple threat, I call it. It builds organic matter, which if kids have been paying attention to the beginning of the lesson, they understand that those are the nutrients that are being absorbed. So you're building that because you're breaking down those old plants, which is part of the soil profile, the clay, the sand, the organic matter, the OM that I wasn't taught about in school. So you're building that, you're out-competing weed pressure, you are retaining hydration in your soil profile to get you through drought, and therefore you're preventing erosion. Mm-hmm. So you've done 4 things with one introduction of more plants into the rotation. As PFI says, roots in the ground year round. You know, mm-hmm. Make sure you've got that stuff on the surface year round as much as possible. And so I would say that would be my main message in terms of what can a person do as plants are pulling nutrients out of plants to make our food or whatever. We need to put back more than we take. And that is the other life skill message I wanted to say about the distinction between regenerative systems and extractive. So if all you're doing is pulling and pulling and pulling out, you're not putting back more OM than you took out, that's frankly an ethical problem for me, because you're not leaving the next generation of plants and people the nutrients they need. And so it's just basically a lesson that kids get about you got to give more than you take. I loved your question about what my path was as a kid. I always start with honoring my grandmother, having gotten the seed planted for me. And then it wasn't until like I was a Peace Corps volunteer and I started doing more local food, systems at the village level, and did, vegetable production, small scale livestock. And I remember writing in my journal that I still have, obviously, but that there was a day that happened to me in the garden that I came back and I wrote down, I found it. I found what I was so overcome with peace when I'm in the soil, when I'm nurturing the soil. I still, and that happened to me when I was 23 and I'm 58, and that has bookended my career because I remember that day like it was yesterday.
Scott offered his thoughts on balance in our system.
The other message I teach is the link between biodiversity and balance. This is a good way to wrap this up because kids understand this too. I just ask a simple question. Do you only eat one thing? No. Like, well, why not? So what's your favorite food? Ice cream. I'm like, okay, great. Do you think you'd be healthy if you just ate ice cream? No. So it's just this link between diversity in your diet is good. Do you think we should just have one plant outside? No, we need lots of plants. I'm like, oh, boom. We just learned that diversity is good in our tummy. Diversity is good outside in nature. It gives more balance in your system, right? So what I think we're witnessing, going back to weather, Diane, is that in my career, I've never seen such extremes. None of us have. It's either drought or flood, hot or cold. We've lost balance because we've lost diversity in systems. Yeah. So on this planet, every day we're losing biodiversity in exponential numbers that we can't even quantify. Things are here and gone before we even had a chance to categorize them. Okay, well, that's not good. Like, we've got to hang on to diversity. And I think when we rediscover that curve, we will find that the weather systems as well might be a little more predictable instead of consistently inconsistent, where every year now, I mean, when I first started when I was 23, I could go out in April and I kind of knew the flow of the season through October with timely rains, and, you know, I don't know what's going on anymore.
Right.
Like, it could snow on July 4th. You take one kink out of the chain on the bicycle and it doesn't work. Oh yeah, we need all the things working together.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Scott, thank you so much.
Hey, what a pleasure to meet you. Take care.
Take care.
Stay in touch.
Okay, I will. All right.
Take care. Bye-bye.